We're live, ladies and gentlemen, live. Do my pregame warm up here for all you podcasters. Get you guys in there, huh? Do a little bit of suicides. Remember the suicides? People remember suicides. Well, that's where we're going here, guys. It's getting serious. Milan Weekly Podcast is getting serious. We have Liban Youssef, Facebook Frank is on the line, and Gigi Lapatat so far. Joseph Giannini, yes, sir. Yes, sir. How many days we played soccer in the park, Joseph Giannini, my friend? How many times I want you to come on the podcast one day, Joseph Giannini, to tell people how many times I lobbed you, huh? Yes. Dom, welcome, welcome. Anthony, fellow Milan Club Montreal admin, we have to graciously welcome to the show, guys. Tonight it's it's back to back. It's back to back, and it's getting really exciting for Milan Weekly Podcast. So we're gonna let things simmer a little bit, as we call it, for a little bit, and then we're gonna start. No way, Joey Janine doesn't want to talk about the lobs. Steve, did you see Gijo sign until 23? Today, guys, uh, I was off radar today. Today we were full time work, full time. We're gonna keep that one down. We're gonna keep it for Monday. Okay, guys, we're gonna go live. Cari amici sportivi, guys, thank you. We see a lot of people on already. Welcome to a special Milan Weekly Podcast midweek edition. What we're trying to do here at Milan Weekly Podcast is pop up with these special podcasts. Get some great guests. Talk about local soccer here in Canada, Quebec. Talk about some calcio. Talk about anything, guys. Anything. Very loose Milan Weekly Podcast. We do not prepare. We are not professional, nor do we pretend to be. That's for sure, guys. Tonight, I have it's my great pleasure, and through a good friend of mine, Vinny Gattuso, he was able to put me in contact with this gentleman here. I'm going to call him gentleman. He's going to be really pissed off when we bring him on. But local soccer player here in Quebec, Canada, representing Quebec, representing Canada, playing professional, giving back now, and uh, coaching and sharing that soccer knowledge and that experience that he's accumulated throughout all these years. And this is again something that really is important to me, because I think people in Quebec, people in Montreal, people in Canada should know that these guys, and you saw the previous guests as well, these guys have taken it to a certain level. They've experienced what a lot of us want to experience when we start amateur sports, and now they're giving back. They're giving back to the future, and they're giving back to the future of this province and this nation. So I'm gonna welcome Mr. Sandro Grande to the Milan Weekly Podcast, guys.
Good evening. How's it going?
Very good, very good, and I like your setup. Very chill, very relaxed, very Milan Weekly Podcast. Sandro, again, the introduction was just a little bit of how much I would like to thank you for being on Milan Weekly Podcast. Sandro, for the people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing right now. We'll get into everything. What you're doing right now with your with Etoile de l'Est.
Well, basically, at the moment, I'm technical director at the Etoile de l'Est. I've been a technical director at Etoile de l'Est for the last 9 years. I retired in 2011, unfortunately. I would have liked to have gone a little bit longer, but reality is that sometimes you got to make decisions, and I made a decision in 2011 to stop playing. Difficult decision, but everybody's got to turn the page at a certain point, and I had this opportunity with Etoile de l'Est to become technical director, and I decided to jump on it. And I knew I always wanted to be a coach, even when I was playing. And for 9 years, we've been here, and we're trying to give back to the community, like you said, and hopefully help the next Sandro Grande make it somewhere.
Excellent, man. Amazing. Tip my hat to you on that, because everybody knows it's a challenge. And as you said, your title magically it appears at the bottom of the ticker. We have your title there. We have your follow Sandro on his Twitter handle there at the bottom, guys. Uh, Sandro, let's start at your youth. Let's see. Tell us where you played your club football, your club soccer, and that path that took you to where you are to not where you are today, but let's say where did your youth soccer take you?
Well, basically, I always played with St. Leonard. So from day one, 4 years old, St. Leonard was my club. Played there all the way to 17, 18. Never changed club. I was never a fond believer of changing club and going to the winner and going to the strongest club. I was a firm believer, and luckily my parents were able to teach me that kind of those kind of values, and have my dad always pushing me to say, you know what, you want to leave because you want the easy way out instead of staying here and bringing your team to the next level. And I think those are really strong words from a person that luckily I listened to, and never had the urge to change club when I was really young, and played with all my buddies, and we had a lot of satisfactions when we were young, with my club in Saint Leonard. So I'm grateful that I played for Saint Leonard, a very historic club. If people don't know about them, the likes of Marco Rizzi and Alex Bunbury, and come from Saint Leonard, Massimo Dioia, and so you wanna look at that and say to yourself, you know what, I'm alongside these types of people that went through this club, and all I
Yeah,
can say to them is thank you for providing those soccer fields and those moments in my life.
exactly. And and it's funny. We were talking before we got on, everybody. And it's like we forget that the Sandro Grandes, the Jason Detours, they played grassroots soccer here in the city, right? It's important that every path takes you to a different avenue and a different way. But it's important that, like you said, you remember the Saint Leonards, the RDPs, the Jean Talons, the Ville Saint Laurents, the smaller club that turned big, the big club that turned small, because these are the times where the times were different, right, Sandro, when you played, so uh, can you talk to us about what you learned as a young player, and now that you're at Etoile de l'Est, where the times have completely changed? Is there a huge difference between those two soccers right now?
Yeah, I think there are two different realities completely. I mean, for myself, growing up in St. Leonard, it was more like I didn't want to do anything else but play soccer, and every day I had to go to the park and play soccer and take free kicks and shoot on my brother who was a goalie, and go to the park with my uncle who coached Alex Bunbury, and just work with him dribbling cones and doing simple stuff. And the biggest difference with the kids of today is that I think there are many of them that just you need to kind of pull teeth for them to get out and go and do that. I think they're, I don't want to say raised differently, but it's just the generation that they have so many more distractions nowadays that we didn't have. For us, it was like, you know what, I'm going to take my bike and I'm going to go to the park, and I know I'm going to find 5 or 6 people that I know, and I'm going to play soccer, I'm going to play ball hockey, I'm going to play baseball, I'm going to play tennis. We used to play everything. Whereas nowadays, even some of these soccer players, um, all they want to do is play soccer. And they don't know how to play these other sports. But these other sports helped us immensely when we were young. Now, I am a firm believer that those sports help me, but luckily I concentrated on one and had the pleasure of playing the other sports and developing some skills that I didn't have maybe. Um, but nowadays it seems like everybody wants to do everything at 100%, and that's just not possible, so it takes away a little bit of that. You know what, I'm going to stick to one thing, I'm going to focus on it, and I'm going to do it very, very well. um,
It
but
takes away a bit of that commitment, right? That commitment that you had where yes, you were able to play multiple sports, but you were committed to one, right? And I
exactly,
think that you hit that nail right on the you hit the hammer right on the nail when you said that, multi-sport, it's not a negative. It's not a negative to play multi-sports.
no,
Tennis can improve your footwork and your stamina.
of course,
Playing baseball, high-end coordination. There's so many. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a sports psychologist, but I'm a firm believer of exactly your model. You have to experience the different sports and pick one of the sports to commit to, and then kind of leech off the other sports to use to again get some talents that you would have not picked up in soccer, because you can't use your hands in soccer, but in baseball you're using your hands, right? So uh, you know I played some club soccer, and of course I wasn't really good. Uh, I was good at eating, that's for sure, Sandro. That everybody can vouch for me. That's for sure. I was good at eating, but talk about as you got older at club level. How did it change? Did it, like, you spoke about the Alex Bumburies? Were they a mentor to you? Because right now, it's kind of a two-part question, meaning like how was Alex or the other players who were older than you or maybe more experienced than you uh, as a role model to you? And two, do you find that in today's game at club level, these kids are not scared but intimidated to come and talk to a Sandro Grande and say, "Hey, look, I have to make this decision. I don't think my parents are the best people to make this decision. Can I pick your brain?" Right?
yeah, for sure. I mean, look, Alex, till today I still speak to him, and we kept in touch over the years. Marco Rizzi, same thing. These are all people, of course, that I looked up to. I mean, they played. I used to see them very, very often because my uncle was their coach, and he coached in Saint Leonard, and I was always at the field watching these guys. And yes, they played for Saint Leonard, which is not a professional club, but for me, I looked up to these people. And when Alex made it and went off to Europe, and Marco made it with the Impact, it was a joy for me to go and watch Marco and go and watch Alex, and say to them, "Hey, Alex, you remember me? Marco Rizzi lived just down the street from me." So I used to see him very, very often. I mean, even to this day, when I text him or he texts me or whatever, it's like there's a certain respect there. Like, I respect that guy because of the fact that he grew up down the street, and he played for my uncle, and he has so much respect for my uncle. Every time he comes into town or whatever, he'll say hi to your uncle, say hi to your uncle, say hi to your... Like, these are values that will never go away. These are things that I can't turn the page on. These guys were exceptional, and then there were other people. There were the Italo Di Gioacchinos of the world that helped you coach with his coaching, and the Joe Primianis that with in my younger ages, where he used to coach us, and he used to give all his passion, maybe for Beneval, maybe as a volunteer, and Andrea Di Pietrantonio, when he first started coaching, he was maybe 20, 21, and he was coaching me, and you can already see that he had the knowledge to become a very, very high level coach in the province, and I was part of that process for him,
Yeah.
and so no, for sure. Like, when I go back to St. Leonard, because my parents still there, and I pass by the pitches, I pass by you know Central, and I pass by Pidou's, and I pass by Ferla, and all these parks here, Pirandello. It's like I still remember the days that I used to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and go to Pirandello, and sometimes Robert Sorella would join me, and we would just train. We would just train and have fun.
Yeah, and imagine training you playing with Saint Leonard and Robert. I know his journey a bit, the RDP, Jean Talon, so on and so forth. But what about, like, my second question is something that I would like to pick your brain about. Do you find that this generation here now, are they afraid to come and talk to you? Are they afraid to come and ask for advice?
Yes, they are. They are, and I have some of the parents that constantly tell me that, listen, Sandro, your persona intimidates them, and but not for all of them, not for all of them, but your persona intimidates them, even though they haven't seen you play. Like, for example, I'll take for example my very good friend Patrice
it's
Bernier.
the mystique, Sandro. It's it's guys that send tweets who throw flowers that we'll talk about after, right?
Yeah, like I have, my good friend Patrice. Um, the kids that are playing in my club have seen Patrice play. So when they see him, it's a different type of thing. Me, they've never, my son, if he sees Patrice, he saw him play. He's like, wow, Patrice, Patrice, Patrice. He never saw Daddy play, unfortunately, because he was born in 2011. But the kids in the club still, yeah, they lack that confidence. And I always tell them, like come to speak to me, come and talk to me. There's no issues, like I'm here, I'm open. And I tell the parents, tell your son, tell your daughter, and sometimes I'll initiate the discussion, and depending on what they want to talk to me about, I'll initiate the discussion. And it's hard to get some words out of these kids. Like, it's not easy. It's very, very difficult, because the reality is that when I used to call you when we were 10 or 9, we would call each other to go to the park.
Yeah,
These kids don't call each other anymore. They text each other, so they're never using words. They're never using words, and you lose that confidence. It's like you don't train soccer. You're not going to be good at soccer. You got to train that confidence of, speaking to people, and um, and that's it. But there are good players. There are fantastic players. There are players with super talent, super talent. Um, it's just that they need to work at that talent to be able to go to the next level.
exactly. And it's too bad because I could just imagine there was like times were different, right? So I'm gonna date myself there at almost 40 years old. Back when I played soccer, you know, you guys were going through, or the older guys were going through this process, but there was no way for me to, unless I was a complete stalker, which was a bit sad, but there was no way to track the progression of a Sandro Grande. You understand? It would have to be
Exactly.
from word of mouth, and it would have to be, oh my God, I think I saw him play. And there was no YouTube, and there was no Twitter, and there was no Instagram. And I'm all for social media. I'm not going to say that I'm not. I just want it to be used in the right way. And that's why, why we started something like Milan Weekly Podcast, where we can try to bring everybody a notch lower, right? The Sandro Grande, he bleeds like I bleed. Yes, he played at a certain level, but in reality, we can have a conversation, and anybody could have a conversation with you. And social media right now, and texting, and however else these kids communicate, we're missing like the bat signal, and we've completed the 360 of communication. But it's sad because even having that option, and to see what you've done in your career by just a couple of clicks, to say, wow, this is some accomplishments, and maybe I'm gonna have to make a decision like this one day. Let me talk to him. And I kind of disagree with that parent that says, it can't be the parent that tells you that it's your persona. It has to be that kid. That parent has to force that kid to say, you know what? Go see Sandro and go talk to him. And you're going to see that he's going to be able to talk to you. My father never spoke for me. First of all, he couldn't speak the language. So he was from Cosenza, Spezzano Piccolo, very small little village in Calabria, and came here with the immigrant story, suitcase, and he knew about work, and he knew about loving his family, eating at night. The soccer, he was not going to talk for me. So I built my own character, and these kids have to learn how to build their own character to man up a bit. And it's time to stop babying everybody and have those conversations, because they're missing out on, if they don't want to look, they're missing out on a huge platform for them to gain not only knowledge, but to think a little bit outside the box with your experiences. So
Look,
that's where I feel on that.
you know what? I don't want to touch too much upon the COVID situation, but for the last 3 months, there's been so much bonding. Like, if you were lucky enough not to be in financial, like very financial issues, okay, Luckily enough, I didn't go through very deep financial issues. So, but the kids around my area have been outside. I've never seen how many kids
Yes.
have been outside. My son, my daughter take their bike and they go for bike rides. And until last year, that was never the case. I'm kind of grateful that we had these 2 or 3 months. And I spoke to one of my friends who's in Ottawa, and he said, I've never bonded with my son so much and my daughter so much in the last 3 months. So let's take the negative from this thing and turn it into a great positive, because, little things like Sundays, the stores were closed. Well, when we were growing up, all the stores were closed.
We're closed.
And Sunday was a family day. And if you didn't have lunch with your family, or you didn't have dinner at your nonna's house, it
Yeah.
was an issue. It was an
Yeah.
issue. Like, where are you? What do you mean you're not at nonna's house tonight? Like, you're
This can
crazy or
be.
what? It can't be. you know so these are things that we grew up with. I saw a little bit in the last few months. I hope the wave keeps on going, and it just, like, the kids see the joy in it, because when they start to notice that there's joy in that, like you said before, they become confident. They become
Exactly.
confident to say, Steve, I need to speak to you, please, because I have a question about my development. They're not going to have an issue coming. They're going to have confidence in coming and speak to you.
Yeah. And you know what? And it's not only, let's like, again, we touch on soccer because that's the main thing that unites both of us. But they can come and talk to you about anything. You
Of
understand? Like,
course.
they
Of
can
course.
ask life advice. You understand? Like, sometimes it's not mom and dad or your uncle that is going to be the best person to it. Sometimes you need a friend, or you need someone's opinion that's out of your circle, someone who doesn't want to pamper your, or give you that answer that you want to hear, right? So that,
Of course.
and I agree with you 100%. That's a humongous positive for what we've went through these past couple of months with COVID, and for all the people that are looking and listening, he is enjoying the wave of the kids continuing to play. He's not enjoying the wave of COVID. So before everybody goes
Exactly.
crazy, you understand?
Exactly.
Let's put it right out there.
I'll touch on that. Just a little example. Like, nowadays we got to tell the kids that it's always good. Yes, it's good. It's good. But sometimes it's not good. And if we tell them that it's good, we are lying to them.
Yeah,
My dad, games, I would score 2 goals, and I would be happy getting into the car, and my mom was all ecstatic. And then my dad would say, "Well, you missed another four. You could have easily had four tonight, or five." And when now that I look back and I look at that and I say to myself, he, those days I used to think, "Wow, why is he being so mean to me?" But he wasn't being mean in a bad way. It was just like he was trying to teach me something. And now that I look back and I said, you know what? He was pushing me to strive to be the best that I can be every day. And if you watch the Last Dance, the biggest key that Michael Jordan had is that he wanted to be the best every day in, day out, training, games, whatever it was.
exactly. And you put it perfectly there. Sandro, we even have people from India here tonight. That's where Milan Weekly Podcast reaches, right? So, and you put it perfectly, right? When you said that, you know it's tough love. The kids are missing that tough love. It's not being angry or being someone who, that generation was different. They understood tough love. They understood what it was to suffer and to get food on the table. And luckily, I could speak for myself, and I don't want to speak for you, but for us it was a little bit easier, right? That food was on the table. We didn't know what was going on in the background, so it's like, it's the same way that his boss would say, you know what, you got to do another 4 hours, and he's going to say, I'm going to do another 4 hours. Well, him, he's telling you, you missed 4 goals, right? So
Yeah.
ha, this is amazing. You see, we're already at half an hour. It's crazy. I didn't touch anything that I wanted to ask you. Sandro, let's talk about representing your country. Can you talk about your time at the Canadian national team?
Look, the greatest satisfaction for the people that know me, they know what I've done at 14, 15, 16, 17. I was a decent player, a very decent player, okay? But never made the national team. Got cut 3, 4, 5 times. Like, like, not, how do you say that? Like sad moments over and over and over when I got to the national team level. With the Quebec teams, always, 6 goals a tournament, 8 goals a tournament, like records, whatever. And then you get to the national team and you get shut down. You get shut down and you get shut down. And I always said to myself, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Represented Canada at the Madagascar Francophone Games. I think it was 1997 or 96, and we won gold. Canada won gold at the Francophone Games. Like, we beat Cameroon in the semifinals, and then in the finals we beat Congo in penalty shots. That was my first tournament, but it wasn't really a national team in the sense, because it was a lot of players from Quebec, and the national, like the CSA, really didn't. They helped a little bit, but it was more like a provincial type. It was like almost like a Quebec team with a couple of additions, and we went there. The real test was Costa Rica. It was World Cup qualifying, my first game. I was with the Montreal Impact. It was 2004. Came back from Italy, 27 years old, and I go to Costa Rica, and I remember saying to myself, okay, it's the first time I'm getting called up. I have a few sessions before the game. Let me make the most of this situation. Honestly speaking, I went there with a lot of confidence because I was playing very, very well with the Impact. And I said to myself, you know what, Sandro, you have nothing to lose. Do your 2 sessions before the game, your 3 sessions before the game, I don't remember how many it was, and just give it your all. And if Frank Yallop says you can start, well, then it's going to be amazing. It's going to be an amazing experience. No problem. We get to the pregame. I see my name on the starting 11, and
Man.
Steve, I'm getting butterflies now
Yeah, I
because
see you smiling. That's why
I
it's
still
bad.
remember the butterflies, and I remember being in the dressing room at their national stadium, and I'm thinking to myself, because on the other team there's Paul Wanchup is the striker of Costa Rica, and I'm saying to myself, holy Moses, like, tonight I'm playing against that guy who I watch play. If I'm not mistaken,
He's
he
like
was
West Ham
playing.
and West
Yeah,
Ham and yeah, English
but
Premier
he was
League.
fantastic.
Yeah,
He was fantastic.
he
I
was like
loved him.
a lanky player, like a lanky Costa Rican player that made it to the
Exactly.
English Premier League. And I think the English, they just loved saying his name, Paulo Wanchope.
Exactly. So we get on the pitch, we do our warm up, we get in the dressing room. It's boiling hot in the dressing room. You can imagine they don't put air conditioning for the visiting teams.
No, 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 no,
They
no.
don't, So we're in the dressing room and we're waiting, and when we're getting out, we get into the tunnel. The stadium is rocking, like beyond rocking. Okay. When we went to the stadium, everybody surrounded our bus, and basically for the last 200 meters, we had Costa Rican fans telling us, tonight it's going to be 3-0 tonight.
Yeah,
Everybody. Okay, so you go there, you're nervous, you're in the tunnel, and I remember that moment like it was yesterday. I said to myself, just go out on the pitch and play, because yesterday you were not a national team player, and today you are. And if tomorrow you aren't, you're gonna have no regrets. But just go out on the field and play. If you are a national team player tomorrow, it means that tonight you played well.
yeah.
And I had a fantastic game. I remember I had a very, very good game. We lost 1-0. I think it was Paul Wanchup that scored. And when he scored, the stadium crumbled.
Yeah.
It literally crumbled. But the game, and when I left that field, I was proud of myself. I was disappointed that we lost because, obviously we're trying to qualify for the World Cup. So I was very disappointed that we lost, but I was very happy in my performance, and to this day, I'll never forget it. Never forget it.
Amazing, amazing, man, amazing, and congratulations on that. Can you tell us a little bit, like for people that will listen, that difference between the mentality we'll take Costa Rica because you experienced it, and the North American mentality on soccer, right? In terms of the visiting team, like following the bus, throwing the rocks, and whatever they want to do, 3-0, you're gonna lose, putting you in the away dressing room, and in the away dressing room, like you said, no, there's no there's no air conditioning, and probably there's direct line to the sewage system there. Can you tell us that difference in mentality between, let's say, we'll take Costa Rica because you went through it, and Canada, let's say, for example. We
Look,
wouldn't do that. We're too nice.
no, we exactly. So every time Canada plays one of these Central American teams, 90% of the time they're going to play at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? Because the sun is going to be beaming.
Yeah,
And in Canada, when they come here, we don't want to play in cold weather because we don't like it either as Canadians, but we should be playing with snow on the ground and
exactly.
put their backs against the wall and say, you want to do that to us when we come down there? No problem. We'll do it to you when we come here. Because you talk about Costa Rica, this national team and all this stuff, but in Italy, it was the same thing in third division, in fourth division. It's like that everywhere around the world. Here, we want to be nice because
Yeah,
Canadians, we are nice people. We have everything we need. We are comfortable. And it's, like we went to Honduras, Steve, and you said, I mentioned the air conditioning before. Honduras, we played, I think it was 1:30 in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
God. Oh,
It was it was so hot. It was like 35 going on like 36, 37 degrees. It was really, really hot. Okay. We get out for the warm up and Frank Yallop is the same qualifying year. Okay. And Frank Yallop says, guys, we're gonna go out, just a little activation, 3-4 minutes, and come back in because it's way too hot. We go out, we do the warm up, we come back in. I remember sitting down and having my head between my legs and saying, "Oh my gosh, it's so hot! It's so hot!"
how am I
And
gonna do this?
I look up at the window, and there's an air conditioner there, one of those portable ones.
Yeah,
But that day it didn't work, that air conditioner.
yeah, of course, of course. But you know what? And it's a good segue to what I wanted to talk to you about too regarding Canada, right? So like you said, they don't turn on the air conditioner. We give you like a little bottle of maple syrup to take home, right? A bomboniera, right?
A bomboniere.
I was always angry at the fact, and I'm happy that you brought it up, and it's because something that escaped me from it. And I was always saying to myself, why do we have to always cater to the visiting team? Let's play when you know what, snow on the floor. Okay, maybe it's a bit exaggerated, but let's play when it's like not that cold. Like you've played in October, you've played in November sometimes. It's cold and the field is frozen. Let's make some people freeze. They make us shkiat of heat. Let's make them freeze. Let's
For
put
sure.
them because you know what, Sandro? Tell me. Let's take someone from Costa Rica and tell them you're gonna come to this country and you're gonna walk out in November and it's going to be maybe 3 to 4 degrees. Right, late November.
Yep.
Let's put them out at Halloween. It always fucking rains at Halloween, and there's always bad weather. The guy will run back home. Right, he's gonna run back home. So let's play a game in October once in a while. Let's play a game, because they're using it to their advantage. And it's not a friendly. If it's a friendly, no disrespect to the friendlies, but it's something that's important. It's something that
Of
we
course.
should start. The Canadian national team has to start using that and flexing a bit of muscle at FIFA or the schedule maker and say, you know what, I want to start playing in October.
Listen, when Mourinho was at Real Madrid, there was a certain point that Barcelona was complaining about the fields when they would play at Bernabeu. And the article came out because after that article, after that year, La Liga came out with a rule of how long the grass needed to be, or else the game was not going to be played. And Mourinho, I remember him saying that all week he told the groundskeepers to let the grass push. And you don't water the grass before the game. You don't water the grass at halftime because the ball is going to roll slower. And if it rolls slower, we might have a chance to beat Barcelona.
Anything to the advantage. That's the edge that this nation is going to start having, right? And
Yeah.
Milan did the same thing.
And it's
And
not
again,
cheating. It's not
it's
cheating.
not
It's not. It's just, you know what? If
gamesmanship.
with all due respect to some of the Central American clubs, countries, and the Caribbeans and all that, Canada is a much higher level than a lot of countries. Okay, so when we play teams that technically we are better, we need to play on good grass pitches with great conditions. But when you go and play US, or you go and play Mexico, or you go and play Costa Rica and Honduras, that might be a little bit more talented than you on any given year, well, then you gotta tilt the scale the other way. When we played Mexico, when we played Santos Laguna at the Olympic Stadium in 2009 with the Montreal Impact in Champions League quarterfinals, they hated the pitch. We hated the pitch. We hated the pitch at the Olympic Stadium, but they hated the pitch a lot more than us, and we won 2-0. You
Exactly. I
know,
was at that game. Very happy to be at that
yeah,
game. Very happy to get the game.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and it's that edge that again I keep on telling, and I talk to we have Joey here and Vinny. They're very close friends of mine. The Milan club. We always talk. And it's always everybody in Europe, and it finds like the other countries are always looking for that edge wherever they're gonna take it. And again, like you put it very very politically correct. It's not cheating, it's gamesmanship, right?
exactly.
It's just gamesmanship that people are gonna have to deal with. And now let's say if it's extreme, like again, if we say let's Costa Rica, let's come and play in the middle of December at Sapporo Stadium, it's not gonna happen, right? It's the game's not even gonna take place. But let's
Exactly.
start playing in October when it's a little bit colder, right? So
In Italy, there's a certain moment in the game, and they call it il fallo tattico. That's
yes,
gamesmanship.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
that's not cheating. That's part
No,
of the game, and
that
you
shirt
know
pull, that
that shirt
tackle,
pull, that counterattack that you stop from happening because that's the reality. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Let's go to your time representing the club that you for the city that you live in, Montreal. Can you tell us a little bit about your time at the Impact?
Look, to be honest, I was drafted by the Impact. What I don't even remember. I think it was 1997 or 96 or something like that. And I said to myself, I'm drafted and I'm happy. But I said to myself, if I'm gonna be drafted and I'm gonna stay here, it's gonna be tough for me to play, and I want to play. And I decided with my parents and my family that, what, I think it's time that I take my bags and I go. And I went. And then I came back in 2004 because of what happened in Italy, and I loved what happened in Italy. It was fantastic. I would never, nobody will ever take that away from me. Um, but when I came back in 2004 and I found my friends and my family and my parents coming to watch the game, and my I had a section at the Claude Robillard Stadium with about 55 to 60 family members that bought season tickets, and,
Amazing.
and they called it the Grande section. They had little flags or whatever, like, and
They should have
and that
called it
year
the Grande stand.
and that year there, it was fantastic. It was fantastic because I found the joy in playing football again that I had lost in the last few months in Italy, and the joy of having lunch at my parents' house, which was my house,
Yeah,
before going to the game, and removing a little bit of that pressure that after the game, whether you win or lose, you're gonna be angry, but you could still walk out of the stadium without having a headache. Um, so these types of things were precious, and I'll never forget that year, because then in the end we ended up winning because we were a fantastic team.
yeah,
And I remember that team like it was yesterday, where you say to yourself, you know what, on the starting 11, I don't know how many we were, but if I'm not mistaken, we're about 6 7 guys that were born and raised in Montreal. That is something that can never be taken away from us.
yeah. And it's crazy that you say that. It's hard, right? Because that team was needed to win, right? They were very aggressive. They wanted to win, and they won with local talent. And I'm
Exactly.
not saying, look, it's something that's possible, but everybody in Italy dreams of that starting 11. That's 11 Italian players, right? So to get seven Montrealers in a Montreal-based team, it's a
If,
spectacular
if
achievement.
if I remember correctly, so in goal it was Greg Sutton, who's not originally from Montreal, but basically is a Montrealer. We
Call him
had
Montrealer.
center backs Gabriel Gervais and Nevio Pizzolito. I was playing in six. We were playing in a diamond in the midfield. Pat Leduc was on the right side or the left side of the diamond, and in the number 10 slot there was Mauro Biello. Right back, uh, right back. Often it was between Adam Braz, Jason Di Tullio, and David Frenimaris, if I'm not mistaken. And then up top we had so just there you had 7 guys from Montreal. On the bench we had another few guys that were from Montreal, and the brotherhood that we had on that team was just unbelievable, you know.
Yeah,
So
and you see, you're the second or third of that team, and it's amazing because of that brotherhood. You touched on something that I wanna talk to you about, and I talked to all the guests about because they have had experiences abroad. How hard was it to leave? How
the
hard
first
was it
year,
to yeah? How hard was it to for you to make a decision in 97, 98 with your parents to say, you know what, I'm not leaving to Ottawa. I'm not going to Toronto. I'm going across the pond and I'm going back to the motherland. I'm just assuming that that's the motherland for your parents,
yes.
but uh, it's a big change, right? So how hard was that decision?
Look, I mean, at 15, I was supposed to go to Boca Juniors to try out,
The
and my parents.
bomboniera,
Oh my
the
gosh, my
bomboniera,
my dream is to go watch a game there.
Sandro,
You know, so
Sandro.
I was supposed to go there to try out, and my parents are like, "You're not going to Argentina, so get that out of your head." The year after, or the year after that, I was supposed to go to Pescara, and Italo Di Gioacchino, his cousin in Italy, is actually he's a Serie A and Serie B coach. He's coaching Serie A, he's coaching Serie B. It's Iacone, and his brother. One of them is a coach, and one of them is a general manager. Um, they said that I could go and try out with Pescara, and unfortunately, that summer, Italo's son passed away,
Oh boy.
and we were very young. We were 16, I think, at the time. So unfortunately, I didn't go to Pescara, but we lost a very special person.
Yeah.
So the circumstances didn't allow me. And then I just, we just stayed here, and then finally at 18, 19, I got a scholarship to go to US. Did all the work to go to US, scholarship, Vermont University, full scholarship. I couldn't go to Vermont in the first year because Vermont is academically is a very high level school, and my grades were average, 75, 76, and it wasn't enough to get into that kind of school. So they were going to send me for 1 year to Alabama, and I was going to
Okay.
play there. And then the year after, I was going to get my grades up and go to Vermont, and then 2 weeks before I'm supposed to go, a month before I'm supposed to go, I come back from Madagascar after winning the Madagascar, the Francophone games. And I told my parents, my calling is not university. My calling is Europe. What I what I what I did in Madagascar, what I experienced there at that level, that's my calling. I need to go to Europe. I remember calling the coach of Birmingham, Alabama. I remember calling the coach of Vermont. They were so angry with me, and my parents were a little bit disappointed. And like a good boy, I went to the soft spot, which was my mom,
Yes.
and I told her, "Ma, I need money. I want to go to Italy. Please give me this chance." I went, started trying out the first year. Tried out with Pescara, made the Primavera, but the coaches, the general manager is like, "Listen, you made it, but you only have really 1 year of eligibility in Primavera. It's not going to serve you anything because in the Primavera that you're going to play, the reality is that there's going to be maybe one player that's going to make the first team. Everybody else is going to go play in Serie D and Serie C."
Yeah.
And the guy told me, "You're good enough to play in Serie C or Serie D. Just go directly there. Don't come here." He got me in contact with some people through Tony and Kalingo. I'm not sure if you know who Tony is,
Yes.
and Leo and Kalingo. So Tony, he got me in contact with a couple of people in Italy. Went to the north to Lumezzane, did a tryout. Went very well. It was in the month of January. And then they decided, look, I mean, you're a good player, but I think they were almost in a promotion spot,
Okay.
and they basically said, look, we can't offer you anything right now. We have to, for us, it's more beneficial if we go and get a 25, 26, 27-year old that's going to be able to start as of tomorrow because we want to win the championship and go to Serie B. So from there, I went to my mom's town, played with my mom's town's team for a few months, just like that. They were in Serie D, so it wasn't that bad. even though they played on a parking lot, which was very hard, and it was terra battuta. That
Oh
if you would
yeah, yeah, yeah,
fall,
yeah.
all your skin came out.
Oh my god.
And but it was okay. And then the year after, through Tony and Kalingo again, got a couple of tryouts. Got a tryout actually in Isernia, and in Isernia was fantastic. I got there. I'll tell you what. The first day I got there, I got out of the car. It was Tony's cousin that brought me to the field, and I understood Italian. And the guys were almost about to warm up, and they're like, one of the captains says, um, "We are in bad shape if we're going to be going to Canada to get players."
Yeah, so let me stop you there. Let me stop you there because it's great that you went there. For everybody who's listening, I tip my hat to you because it's not all. It's not a fairy tale ride. You understand? This is
No way.
hard stuff. This is someone leaving at a very young age, crossing to another continent, going bounced around from city to city. Where even though again he is Italian by origin, he's in the end he's Canadian, right? So they're gonna look at you as a stranieri. They're gonna look at you as someone who's coming from another country to come to this team, whatever that team would be, whatever league we're in, to take someone's space, to take someone's spot who might be providing for a family in a different situation, right? So they're pissed off. How was that relationship with those guys? Like, let's go a little bit further and say, like, how hard was it for you to adapt with the Italians being someone who's Italo Canadese?
At the beginning, I would say, yeah, it was a little bit difficult, but you always find those two or three people, four people that you can connect to. That they're not happy that there might be somebody coming to take their spot or whatever, but they're not nasty. You know,
They're willing to listen.
they're willing to listen. They're willing to help you out, and you lean a little bit on those people. And honestly, within a few weeks, I integrated no problems because we had an apartment. We were 6 or 7 players in this apartment. I mean, when you live 6 or 7 players in an apartment and you play PlayStation tournaments day in day out, and you go to the restaurant together to eat on the club's account, and you go have coffee together. Within a few weeks, you become friends. And
Yeah.
honestly, those people there, um, after a few weeks, they get to know you, and then it's all gone. And the second year, when I go back to Italy, now I speak almost like perfectly Italian, and nobody even knows that I'm Canadian.
Hmm. The dialect is gone.
The dialect is gone. The first year, and as well, the first year, the first 4 games, I don't play a minute. I'm in the stands. So
Wow.
people that think that you're going to go to Italy and you're going to go to France and you're going to go there and you're going to go here and you're going to go in and you're going to say, hey, I'm here, I'm going to start every game. It doesn't work like that. you know uh ti devi fare le osse, like they say, right?
Exactly.
And I was patient. I was there. I was training. I was working my butt off and everything. That moment came, the fifth game, that two guys, one guy, the guy that made the comment of me being Canadian, got injured the week
Karma.
before, Karma, and the other guy got yellow cards. And all of a sudden, now we're three midfielders for two spots because we used to play a 4-4-2. And that week there, I think I had fantastic training sessions and all that stuff. And I get to start. And then I start, and then I play 30 games in a row as a starter. And I score 8 goals in Interregionale, which is not 8 goals for a midfielder. So I think I scored
Wow.
3 or 4 on free kicks from outside the box, and a couple of rockets and a couple of foul shots.
Yeah.
So for the people that know, that have seen me play, they know what kind of shooting ability I had, and basically I use that to my advantage. And then the year after, when I go to Potenza, like I said, now I'm a Serie D established player, and I'm going there as a starter. I'm going there as people knowing me, and
You have
and
a
then
pedigree, right? And it's gonna
exactly,
continue to advance. Then
exactly.
after Potenza, the where did that trek take you?
After Potenza, so Potenza was a tough year because we were in first place with IGA Virtus, and the president wasn't paying us, and it was a very difficult situation.
Oh
And
boy.
we were living in a house. Even there, we were about 6 guys, but we had a mansion. We had a this huge mansion on the side of a hill, and we could all live there. It was fine. But when the rent is not being paid, the owner turns off the heating.
Oh boy.
And Potenza is the coldest city in Italy. So now all of a sudden you're sleeping in the winter with no heating,
Oh.
and whatever. These are stories that are
Yeah,
fantastic,
exactly.
and unfortunately, I didn't finish the season there. In February, I decided to come home because I wasn't getting paid. And the next year, my same coach that I had those 2 prior years, who now coaches in Malta in First Division, which is Stefano Sanderra, he calls me and he says, I'm going to Frosinone. Frosinone is a big piazza. I want you to come with me. And I said, Mister, I love you. I want to come and play for you. But as soon as I get off the plane in Rome, the money needs to be at the door. If the
Yeah,
money's at the door and I'm guaranteed my money, I come, I play, and I'll give you everything.
yeah,
I got to the airport. I get down. The general manager's there. He has his car. He gives me all the checks, all post dated. And I was tranquilo all year round. They brought me to my apartment. I had my own apartment. They didn't give me a car. I bought my own car, and I played a fantastic year. And that's the year that I moved from Frosinone to Brescia, where they sold
pressure.
me. They sold me to Brescia. Yeah.
Yeah. So like again, guys, for the young ones out there, and I'm gonna say it right now. I think I have a fear, and it's a fear that I shared with a lot of my friends, that people are gonna get the Alfonso Davies syndrome, meaning that rising that fast and that quick is contagious, right? And everybody, and it's great for competition, but it's not always the reality. And I'm pretty sure he went through his tough times as well, but that's a rocket shot to the other side of the pond, going and play for Bayern Munich, right? And that's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of dedication to his craft, and people need to hear both sides of the story, right? Their story, there's your story that it took time. It takes time. There's not always that fairy tale ending.
Listen, the reality is that if you look at the majority of Canadian players that have went abroad, the majority, they've all started small and built up. And now you made a perfect example. Beautiful. Because all the kids in my club now, they're freaking out over Alfonso Davies. I'm freaking out. The guy's a
I
phenom.
mean,
Like, what
me
do you want me
too.
to
Me
tell you?
too.
Right? But
Vince Gattuso. Vince Gattuso calls me Alfonso Davies. Alfonso Davies. I get it, Vinny, but it's like there's that we always everybody has come on and talked about that
we need that
half a
motivation.
percent, exactly,
We
that
need
half
that
a percent.
motivation that he's giving the kids. Love it. I love it.
Yeah,
But if you look at two sides of the coin, you look at Alfonso Davies and you look at Jean-Yves Tabla Balou, who I coached as well at CNHP, who I've seen grown up since the age of 11, 12, and phenomenal player, and takes a step too big for the time that he's in, for the moment that he's in, and goes to Barcelona and is not well surrounded, makes the wrong choices in certain moments, and now all of a sudden, Jean-Yves Tabla is back at Montreal Impact, and all of a sudden, even at the Impact, he's having a hard time getting a regular spot.
yeah,
He's still very young, and I've
yes,
spoken to him. I've told him. I spoke to him on a couple of times when he came back from Barcelona during the summer or during the winter, whatever. I've seen him, and I've told him. I said, Jean-Yves, please do me the favor. Be a little bit more serious because you have an opportunity of a lifetime, and you can't let this pass because not everybody in this world can say they got a chance to go to Barcelona.
yeah,
And then on the flip side, you have Alfonso Davies, who seems like he has a more of a head on his shoulders. Um, and people that are surrounding him are helping him a lot. And he's just going on the field and he's smiling, which I
yeah,
love every
exactly.
game. And he's enjoying the game. He's not worrying about the fame. He's not worrying about the fortune. I hope it continues, right?
Exactly. I wish him
But
all the best of luck. I'm just, manage people's expectations. I like to say that a lot of time. And you
exactly.
know what? Sometimes taking a big step too fast is going to end up in you taking two very quick steps back, right?
You
So,
you have somebody on the other line. Steve, that took a huge step. I went from Frosinone.
Sorry. You said I have someone on the other line. It's like, how does he know my phone is ringing?
Okay, you're speaking to somebody live who can tell you that I went from fifth division to first division at an $800,000 transfer fee, and when I got to first division, reality hit me in the face very very quickly. And to this day, I say to everybody, I say, listen, guys, I had many options. One of the options was to go into Serie A.
Okay. Before you go, can we just let's take this elephant out of the room. Let's talk about this experience at Serie A. A lot of people, that I saw a lot of the questions. Will kill a lot of those questions there. What was your experience there? You said you got a reality shot. Talk to us about this time at Brescia.
Well, you go there, and all your life you're used to being the guy. You're used to going to Isernia, and within 4 games you're the man. You go to Potenza, and now everybody knows you've been the man. And you go into Frosinone, and you have 7 on Pagella every week, 6.5, 7, 6.5,
No
7.
one gets seven, Sandro. No one gets seven.
I,
Seven is magical, Sandro. In the
it,
Pagella, seven is magical.
it's a fantastic game. It's a fantastic, and I got my average when I
I
was in
want to see these
Frosinone.
pagellas. I want to see these pagellas. Go
I
on, go on.
posted them. I posted them in my memories. I posted them in my Monday memories. I took. I have pictures of newspapers because I have newspapers still in my basement about those games. All the pagella I used to keep them.
I'm gonna
I
go
used,
see because Inzaghi got a hat trick in a Champions League game and they gave him 7.5. I'm just thinking, I'm just gonna throw it out there.
I'll send you all the pictures whenever you want. Okay, the proof is there. Nobody can take it away from me. So you go to Brescia, and now all of a sudden it's not like you're playing with Sandro Grande next to you. You're playing with guys like Pep Guardiola, Roberto Baggio, the Filippini twins. You're playing with Luca Toni, Iglitare, Bonera. You're not playing with guys that just fell off the, you
For a
know.
Milan Weekly podcast, Milan fans especially, Sandro played with Lord Bonera. Lord Bonera. All
Yeah,
jokes aside, I'm a huge Baggio fan. Uh, I'm gonna just. I understand that it's a big culture shock, right? Because you're used to being that guy, and you're not that guy anymore. You're part of this team. They've accepted you in the team, and no one's scared of you anymore, right?
no,
That mentality is at a different level. And I'm saying not saying from experience. I'm just saying, Serie D, Serie C. As you go up and as you gain experience, people, they make once you're in A, no one's scared of you anymore. Like look, the people that you strung out are like our future coaches, our future Capo Cannonieri. For me, Baggio's the greatest of Italian player that has ever played,
I
uh,
totally agree.
and you talk about someone like Bonera. It's a parody, but he did a lot for Milan, and he went on from Brescia to Milan, another trajectory. How was it to see Baggio? Just did you talk to him? Did you try
Look,
to touch his hair? Or I would have stole a piece of hair. Honestly, I
hon-
would have cut it off.
honestly speaking, and I like I swear on my kids, I was very good friends with him. Very very good friends with him. Okay, he's a hunter. Everybody knows that. Whoever's read his books, whoever he's a
Yes.
hunter. Okay, um, he found out that my brother's a hunter here in Montreal, and we kind of hit it off, speaking and all this stuff, and I was ordering hunting gear from Canada because apparently I'm not a hunter, but
No,
apparently we have some of the best hunting gear in the world here in North America, and through me, we were ordering stuff. I had his address, home address, not email address because we didn't use
it
emails
was
back
no
then.
emails.
Yeah, yeah. Home address, phone number, I had everything. When I went on loan to Frosinone, we would speak once a week and all that stuff. The issue is that it's hard to stay in touch with these types of people,
Yes.
and to describe these types of people. We used to train at the hotel where I lived, and everybody would walk off the pitch and go through the hotel and go eat, and then after eating, everybody, including Bonera and Luca Toni, would just walk out the front door and take their cars and leave. Not Baggio.
No.
Not Baggio. He had to go from the garage, and his personal trainer was driving, and he was in the back seat at the bottom, hidden, and there was tinted windows, because at the hotel every day when we were training, there were hundreds of people, Japanese, Chinese, from everywhere, white, South American, Africans, anybody you can think of was there at any given moment. And that's what it meant to be. Uh, that's what it was to be Roberto Baggio. You understand what I
Yeah,
mean?
and it's funny you say he's a hunter, and he obviously again following him, he's very into Buddhism and and it's
Yeah,
kind of like the polar opposite. Buddhism is very humble and very the green and a lot of concentration, and yet hunting again it's kind of similar because you got to be quiet, you got to be concentrated, right? Yet you have a weapon in your hands, and that's an amazing story, and like again, a comment on the YouTube, is like the kids these days will not know what they missed, right? So like for me, my story with Baggio is basically my first ever jersey, which absolutely does not fit anymore, is a 1990 World Cup jersey.
wow,
And my dad said, okay, it came from Italy when he went there. My uncle sent it to you. That's great. There's a little story. Who are we going to put inside? Who are we going to put on the back? The Schillaci had a great tournament. There was the Ancelotti, there's the Vialli. And little Steven says, put me number 15 in the back. And he's like, you're making a mistake. Why would you put that number in the back of this jersey? There's so many. And you know what? My father was a Juventini, you understand? But it was that Fiorentina transition to Juventino in those 90s times there where, the old people had trouble understanding that fantasista role that Baggio would play everywhere, right?
of course.
And I still have that jersey, and I'm happy. I lost it and I had to buy another one. I found that original 1991,
Wow,
and back there's a 15 in the back again. That's for sure.
amazing.
Uh, uh,
And you still remember that goal that he scored against Czechoslovakia?
Czechoslovakia. Yeah, I watch it all the time. I watch it all the
Yeah,
time. I have to ask you one question about
yeah,
Baggio,
yeah.
and it's
Go ahead.
something that I've touched with a lot of people on the podcast before, and I'm gonna bring up the upside down World Cup, which is Korea in South Korea, right?
Yeah,
So Trapattoni is selecting this team, and Trapattoni decides that Roberto Baggio is not gonna be playing on this team, which I thought was a humongous mistake. My reasoning behind this is because if you're going to, and you said it right, you're at that Brescia training. There's hundreds and thousands of people coming from everywhere. You touched all this the Asian market, right? And the Buddhism. Take Baggio to this World Cup, and I bet you that Italy is not the home team because South Korea is obviously the home team. But when South Korea is not playing, I bet you Italy would have been the home team just because of Baggio.
yeah. But I mean, look, it's easy for me and you to say. I'm in a coaching hat right now, and if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, Baggio had hurt his knee again that year, 6 months before, or maybe 5 months before,
Yeah,
and he came back in record time, right? If I remember correctly,
yeah.
and nobody had ever come back that fast from an ACL. And honestly, I'm going to the World Cup. Unfortunately, I probably don't bring him either as a coach.
Yeah,
As a human being, I
yeah,
would bring him, no doubt in my mind. But
yeah.
as a coach, I need to make that decision, and sometimes
It's a
it's
tough
a harsh.
decision,
It's hard.
and and I don't want to say that's the perfect thing, but maybe like, and again, it's a good segue because I want to talk to you about your coaching. The coach sometimes has to address different roles, right? And for me, my thought process behind the whole Trapattoni thing was, and I don't know if this happened. I'm just speculating here, right? Like have a conversation with him and say, you know what, you've come back this fast, and the only person that I've seen come back faster and is Baresi in 1994. because that was like a miracle on 24th Street, right? You don't come back from that and then play the game of your life in the final. Again,
Yeah.
that's a story for a different time. But he comes back from this, and maybe talking to him and saying, come as a mentor, come as someone who's gonna guide that young team, because that was a good team. It was a stacked team. You had the Vieri, you had Maldini still in that team, you had the Nesta still in that team, even though he keeps on getting hurt every time he puts on that blue jersey. But Nesta's in that team. uh, you have a crop of like amazing talent, and okay, let's leave the stupid referee issues in that quarterfinal. But I think it would have pushed Italy a little bit as maybe not another, let's say, home team 1B,
Okay. So what about if I tell you you're the coach, and you make that decision that you're talking about now, and you know how the journalists are in Italy.
Oh yes,
How smashed do you get by these people when you're playing other guys and never playing Baggio? That's the problem.
that's the problem.
That's the problem behind the scenes. Because if the Italian media would support your type of discussion, then it's not an issue. But every
Yeah,
time you put two people like Del Piero and Totti on the field, oh, they can't play together. You put Baggio and Del Piero together, oh, they can't play together. But if they're phenoms, they can play together. What's the problem? You know,
exactly. Yeah, they'll make it work. And no, I get that. I get that. And imagine those are the times in in Italy where they had it was Gazzetta dello Sport, Corriere dello Sport, and someone had to actually open a newspaper to read. So at times of social media, and the way we are now, of course, it would be killed by everybody, and I get that. But we I don't know, it's something that I have really over here, and I talk about it all the time because I like to think outside the box, you understand? And I think, and I don't know the person as a human, I don't know Roberto Baggio, and I know that being that fantasista and being someone who kind of is very creative, maybe that leadership role would have suited him well. And I take Baggio at the 60th minute. I take Baggio for a half, or start a game every now and then and come off at the 60th.
look, I said it on another time in an interview, and I said if Baggio would have been born in Argentina, he would be one of the greatest players of all time because they love those kinds of players. Unfortunately, Totti, Del Piero, Cassano, even now Insigne, Verratti, they don't get they don't get the props in Italy. People in Italy, not the normal citizen. I'm talking more about the journalists and stuff like that. These types of players, they don't enjoy them. I don't know why, but they just don't enjoy them. And Verratti will never go back to Italy because he's playing in a place where they love his fantasy. They love the fact that he can dribble out of in the 18-yard box. I don't know if you've seen the YouTube video. There's a YouTube video on Verratti.
Yeah,
He's dribbling in the 6-yard box.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And they love that. And Barcelona wants that type of player. In Italy, we let this player go to France. How come
yeah,
we let this player
yeah.
go to France?
Yeah, the worst $12 million transfer that ever happened in Italy has to be Verratti. Could not have escaped that.
How come Barella and Sensi and Politano and Insigne? How come we're not pushing these people? How
Yeah,
come? Like it's a culture thing, and I
yeah,
look. You know what? We've won how many World Cups? So they must be right. They must be doing something right. But the reality is that these players are the players that bring you joy.
yeah.
They bring you joy.
And it's the same thing. It's the polar opposite for the Brazil national team, and I like talking about that as well, because the polar opposite for the Brazil national team is they want everybody to be samba, and they don't want to play defense. And as soon as you start playing defense, if you're not getting the results, that reporter has his keyboard ready and he's on fire. They
Yeah.
played defense the whole game. They're not the samba. They're not the samba boys anymore. And then
When
Germany
did
happens. You
Brazil
understand?
when was the last World Cup that Brazil won? In 2002.
Yeah.
2002. Since 2002, have they ever had a samba team?
No, it's finished.
So they went away from their roots and away from their. I talk about Jenga because I just made my
Yeah.
son watch a Jenga YouTube documentary. Actually, I sent it to the whole club, to all
Well,
my club at Etoile de
amazing.
L'Est. I sent it to everybody. I said, kids, watch this and let me know what you think about Jenga. What does the word Jenga mean to Brazilians? Okay, and my son comes to me and he says, "Wow, the word Jenga means pleasure, means loving the football, loving the game. They can play anywhere. They can play barefoot on rocks, on beach. That's Jenga." And Brazil, since 2002, has lost their Jenga. In 2002, they were making the Nike commercials. I don't know if you remember, in the airport. I can't.
Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, no
sorry.
problem.
I'm stuck with technology. I was on mute. Exactly.
No
The
problem.
Nike commercials.
The
There was
Nike
the
commercial.
Cantona commercials. Uh,
Robinho,
yeah.
Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Ronaldo all played on the pitch at the same
Same
time.
time.
Danielson,
Yeah.
Roberto Carlos, Cafu, and now they went to a more muscular midfield.
Yeah.
They went to balance their team a little bit, and they went away from their roots, and they're not winning anymore.
I
They're
know
not winning anymore.
they're having a lot of trouble, and I know, does that have to do a little bit that a lot of their players don't play local anymore, and or don't stay at their local teams much long anymore and leave to go to play to an Italy, a France, where they're very tactically heavy, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That doesn't help them. That doesn't help
Uh,
them. Um, you know, the Brazilians of back in the day. I'm not Brazilian, but mamma mia, the way they used to play. The joy that they showed on the field. It was
you
it was
see,
poetry in motion. Like it was
yeah.
like, wow, how can they do this on the field for 90 minutes and not worry about defending?
No, and it was a complete offensive flair and a show. It was almost like
It
you're
was a
watching a
show.
play. It was a
It was a
show.
show. It was
And
a
and someone like the I like to call him the Rio Ronaldo. Uh, uh, it cannot be. Sometimes it's not fair to be that big, that fast, that strong, and that tactically savvy to get out of like minuscule spaces, right? So your time in Italy, Sandro, going back to Brescia, what was the hard part of making that next step, that jump from being someone who's just on the Brescia team to actually trying to play? How big is that jump?
I'm gonna point to one thing, and it's not gonna be my feet. It's in there.
Mentality.
I shared a room in the hotel. I shared a room with Andrea Caracciolo. Um, he was in the same situation like me. He came from Serie D. He was bought by Brescia from a much less amount than me. I think it was maybe 300 or 400,000, and and he had an agent that told him, "Be patient, state zitto, be patient, stay there, work your ass off, don't worry about it." Me, I started to stress. So the first month was perfect, second month was perfect, beautiful, honeymoon, everything. The transfer market closes September 1st or August 31st, whatever you want to call it. Um, September and October become very, very stressful when you're not playing games. I played a couple of games in Primavera. I played 2 games in Primavera. I had 2 fantastic games. I even scored and all this stuff. No problem. Nice. Okay. But you want that joy of playing. And I was getting impatient. And that's the worst thing you can have. And honestly speaking, I was only what, 22, maybe 23. And that helped me after when I went to the national team and after when I went to Norway and I ended up playing in Europa League and all this stuff. That helped me immensely because I knew how to attack that situation. Okay. But if I would have been patient in Brescia, I would have played not in Serie A for 20 years, but I would have played Serie B or Serie A for 10, 15 years easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Amazing that how the mind, it's two guys bunking in the same room on kind of that same path, and you know again, getting just not getting the wrong advice, but getting antsy, right? Your mindset was, wow, I'm not playing. Wow, what's going to happen in January when the transfer window's open? No one's going to have seen me. And him, someone in his ear saying, just be patient, just be patient, just be patient, right? And we know that the Brescia Brescia has that up and down between B and A, and they have a pedigree of producing top talent, right? So it is a farm of Italy for talent that goes on. The Pirlos pass through there, and we have the Tonali passing there through there. But they've had a good history of nurturing also the veterans, right? They took in the Bajos, they took in the Luca Toni. Well, I'm not sure Luca Toni was taking him back, or was he older at his time at Brescia? I always forget.
Well, he's my age, so he's a 77. So when I was there and I was 22, 23, he was 22, 23.
22, 23. So not old, but
No, he was fairly young. He
he's
was fairly young.
fairly young at Brescia. So again, young at that point. And then we have the mythical figure of Dario Hubner. When
He was
and
there the year before. So
yeah,
when I officially
okay.
went there in the summer, he wasn't there anymore.
Oh, he was not there.
Our strikers were Luca Toni, Iglitare, who's the
The
sporting director of Lazio,
Yeah.
and Andrea Caracciolo was the third.
Yeah, and again, players like Guardiola that we mentioned before, someone like Tari interests me, okay? Because I want to tie it to yourself as well. Like him spending a lot of time, he's Albanian, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, yes.
Which Albania and Italy are very close, so it's a hop and a skip and away for him. But him making that transition, if you can talk a bit about your time, and I don't know if you did talk to him, because he interests me because he's one of these direttori sportivi that doesn't get enough credit because he finds some diamonds in the rough and he makes Lazio a lot of money. And you know what? He had a big decision. I know, I don't know for sure, but Milan were on top of him, and they wanted him to come to Milan. And I think he later come out and said yes, he did, but he wanted to stay at Lazio. For you and for him, I'll tell more for you that question. What did Italy do to help you to progress to coaching?
Look, when I started coaching, the first thing I did was sat down with a piece of paper, some ideas, and say, okay, how do I want to coach? So how do I want to? Because I think you're a teacher, right? I don't like you use the word too much coach. I like the
Yeah.
word teaching. Okay, so I say I'm a teacher. So I sit down with a piece of paper and I draw out on a piece of paper, what do I like? So I said to myself, first thing I like is that Italians defend the way of defending and their structure on the field, and tactically, I think I need to imitate what they do. Then I said, Italy is not good in attacking, and I love the way Spain plays, and I love the way they move the ball, and I love the way Barcelona moves. And I say to myself, okay, I'm gonna try to imitate that type of on the offensive side. And then I say to myself, the ultimate package between both of them with a mind that's by far, the strongest minds in the world, mentally, I say the Germans. So that's the way I start coaching. I say to myself, I build my playing philosophy, my coaching philosophy around those three types of methodologies, those three types of philosophies.
Amazing, and you're doing what we just said before. You're not going into multiple sports now. You're going into multiple mentalities of that sport, and
Yes.
again, picking what you like and what suits you to become a teacher, to become someone who's guiding the future of Canadian soccer in that right direction, right? So, I know I can't believe it. I just looked at the time. It's an hour and 20 minutes. Your family must say, "Well, who's this humongous guy talking to my husband, talking to my dad?" This ugly guy on the screen. But let's go to some questions there
Yeah.
that I have. I'm just gonna start with YouTube because I'm gonna have to give it to him. Joey Giannini. He wants to know the best coach you ever played for.
Um, a little bit different. Three of them, I'll give you three. So Stefano Sandera, because he opened up the doors for me in Italy, and he taught me so much. And he was my first coach in Italy that produced me to go to Brescia. So I can't forget about him. And then Carlo Mazzone, because his human touch was by far unbelievable, like a father to all the players.
Yeah.
Um,
Were
and
you
then
at that game when he ran ran across the pitch to the Atalanta fans or no?
so I
No,
was on
but
loan. I was on loan in Frosinone, and I still remember watching that game
wow.
while I was on loan. And uh, and I remember the interview after the game. You have to understand, Me, I'm Carlo Mazzone. That was my brother. That
Yeah.
was not me. That was somebody
Yeah.
else. Because when I go on the bench, there's another person that
There's
comes on the bench. He said that in the
yeah.
interview. It was fantastic.
My God.
Um, and then Roy Hodgson in in Norway. Roy was a really nice man, um, knowledgeable, very easy to get along with. Always told you the truth, whether it was good or bad. He would tell you the truth. And if he had to get mad at you, he'd get mad at you. But he also had that a little bit of that human touch because he's a little bit older. And those are the three guys that I would say were fantastic for me in my pro side.
Amazing. We're gonna go to the Twitter. So hold on a second here. I'm this terrible at this thing. We have from Gigi La Patate. How would you handle or counsel a very talented 16-year-old player who is adamant on going to Europe for his future, his or her future?
If the boy or the girl puts in the work and puts in the sweat and shows everybody that mentally they are willing to do that, then they need, and obviously they have to have the talent because that's going to drive a lot of it. They need to be able to go and try, because if they never try, they're always going to say, and I know some people that have gone to try or that had the talent and then came back and said, they cut me because I was Canadian or blah blah blah, all these excuses which are not
Yeah,
true, because if you go there and you outperform everybody there, they have no choice but to give you a contract. But if the boy or girl at 16 years old really has aspirations, they better make sure two things: they sweat it out over here before going there. Because I had a player in my club. He says, "Yeah, when I'm gonna go over there, I'm gonna get in shape." I'm like, "What?"
yeah. It's a
He
bit of
doesn't
a
play. He
backwards.
doesn't play anymore. Yeah, he doesn't play anymore. At 17, he was in my club. He scored many goals in my club. The year after, he's telling me he wants to go to Europe. I said, "But you're out of shape." He goes, "It doesn't matter. I'm gonna go to France. I'm gonna get in shape over there." 1 year, not even 3 months later, he was back here. It's like,
Yeah,
so be realistic and be ready to go and play in, not in Serie A, be ready to go and play in Serie C Due, in Serie C Uno. I know now it's only Serie C, but in Serie D, go get ready to go play, and don't focus on the big countries like Italy, France, Spain, England, Germany. We are not good enough in Canada to be able to go to those countries and just step in.
yeah.
I made the mistake of going to Italy first. Patrice Bernier, my very good friend, Atiba Hutchison, my very good friend, they went to smaller countries and they had an easier time moving up the ladder.
Amazing. A segue to a question from Francis, the snake interista Giacomo. uh, he's throwing you flowers. Probably one of the and I agree with him at 100%. Probably one of the top players this province has ever produced. We need more players of that caliber. Feel like we are on the right track. According to Sandro, at what age do our players start losing ground compared to traditional superior soccer countries?
Um, at young ages, we lose ground because we focus on the wrong things. We focus on the wrong things, and the kids in Italy have a more holistic approach to their teaching. So we focus on the wrong things. And when I say the wrong things, you know what I mean: winning tournaments, winning games. And those are absolutely wrong, 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 wrong. And there's nobody that's going to make me believe anything that, oh, yeah, but the kids need to win. No, the kids don't need to win. The kids need to learn. Just like in school, they need to learn how to read.
Exactly.
Okay. They need to learn.
And also
So,
learn, sorry to cut you off there.
yeah,
Sometimes you need to learn how to lose to start
of
winning.
course. Of course. And then by 10, 11, we can still manage to catch up. By 15, 16, it becomes very, very tough. And why does it become very tough? Even though we have academies like Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver that are doing fantastic work, the reality is that Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal don't have the competition to play against and to force their players to play at a very high level. The Impact went to Italy a few years ago and they played Ajax, and I think they lost 1-0, and it was a pretty decent game. And the father of one of those kids that played in my club, who's at the Impact, whose name is Matthew Catavolo, who played at the World Cup last year, that comes from
Fantastic.
Etoile de l'Est. Uh,
Excellent.
he he tells me, yes, we were close, and I say, Attilio, you were very close. I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. But what you have to understand is that Ajax's top player, who's 15 years old, already plays with the U21, and their second top player and third top player already play with the U18. So you didn't play the
The
Ajax
best.
full formation with these guys here. You, but it's still a great achievement. I'm not saying no.
A
It's
100%. But we have
fantastic.
to be realistic. You have
But
to
we have
give.
to
You're
be
giving
realistic.
him. You're giving him that tough love. You're giving him that. What unfortunately some of these kids will not understand until someone beats it on them is that tough love is what's going to get you. You need to know. You have to see what that other team, what their cards are playing. You know that U15 team. Again, they're missing their four top players, and it's still an achievement to go there. But let's be realistic, guys. With those four top players in that U15 team,
Of course.
I don't want no disrespect to Canada. We are getting blown out of the water.
Yeah, like maybe not blown out of the water, but it's going to be very, very hard, very hard. And the reality is that every weekend Ajax plays Feyenoord, plays PSV Academy, plays all the top clubs in Holland, and they go and do tournaments, and not because they like doing tournaments, but because they get to challenge Bayern Munich and Barcelona and Juventus on a regular basis. So imagine you play an amazing game, Montreal Impact Academy against Toronto, very high quality game, very good because I've seen those types of games, very good games. Okay, but then the next week you play against a small academy in the US and you beat them 4-0, the consistency is not there.
Yeah.
Whereas the Ajax players, one weekend they progressed by a 1%, and then the next weekend they play another tough club and they progress by another 1%, and so on and so on and so on and so on. When you do 5 years like that, well, they've progressed at an extremely rapid rate, and our players progressed at a slower rate.
And it's even currency, right? Let's be honest. That 1% that they're progressing is not the same 1% that we're progressing here.
Of course,
Yeah.
it's not.
We'll go back. We have here. I'm gonna try to read their Twitter handles. I hate when they don't put their names. Well, I have someone for favorite football club, favorite skill.
Favorite football club, Juventus. Favorite.
My ears, my ears. Ah, ah. Just joking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So Juve, um, and favorite skill. I'm not sure what he means, but for me, passing. Andrea
Nice.
Pirlo, Xavi, Iniesta, passing. Obviously, I'll take Messi any day and Ronaldo
Yeah.
any day for their dribbling and stuff like that. But I mean, passing was my thing on the field when I played, and I really appreciate those types of players, the Busquets of the world that don't have a muscle on their body, that are not fast, that are not strong, that are not, what everybody thinks they need to be. Like I get this comment, oh yeah, but if the US LeBron James would play soccer, what does that mean? It means nothing. Do you understand that Iniesta, if he was born in the US, he would be an accountant? Muscles mean nothing. But
Exactly.
Iniesta is one of the greatest of all times.
Yeah.
All times. So
The Americans seem the Americans. I feel like their soccer as of 1994 they were conditioning the athlete, right? There was a lot of athleticism, speed, and running, and constant running, and never give up, which is great. But the soccer mind needs to evolve. The soccer mind needs to be trained as well for you to get results.
5 or 6 years ago, Seattle Sounders played Manchester United in preseason. Manchester United, it was a week that they started training. The game finished, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 7-0. And Seattle was in mid-season. So now I tell you, I ask all those people about physical, physical, physical. Does physical have anything to do with it? Or
Yeah.
did they play with their minds, those guys?
Yeah.
You know?
The next question I have here. Um, I don't know why. I'm gonna ask you why Malaysia and why Selangor?
I don't understand the
No,
question.
we're gonna go back. I don't know what that question is coming from. This is crazy. I don't understand. What's the next question here? My God. Oh my God. I don't know. I don't know how many Ask Sandros there is. There's all kinds of questions here. We're gonna go to my questions. I'm vetoing these questions, and I'm going to my questions.
I
My
love it.
top five action here. This is fast. It's an hour and a half of great soccer talk with you. I know someone's beaming at you and wanting to get you off this phone, and you've probably had a long day. So let's go to this. I want to know your favorite. Sorry, which player influenced your game?
Roberto Baggio for sure when I was small, and later on um, Pirlo and Guardiola for sure.
Excellent. You might have answered my next question. Who's your favorite Mister Coach?
That coached me or that just
No, no, not that Coach Joe.
Pep
Just in
Guardiola.
general, Pep
Pep
Guardiola.
Guardiola. Yeah.
Why Pep Guardiola?
Because everybody talks about how much money they spend, but everybody spends money, including Mourinho, and no other teams other than Klopp. Now, I'll definitely I'll never say that Klopp does. No other teams in the world other than Klopp and Guardiola play that brand of football, and everybody spends money. Juve spends money, Real Madrid spends money, but nobody plays like Pep Guardiola's teams. They'll lose sometimes, but I'm sorry, they're too much too high level. And
Nice.
Liverpool, same thing.
Yeah, true. As a player, what was your preferred formation that you like to play in?
I enjoyed 4-4-2 diamond at the impact because when you're in front of the defenders, you get to screen and you get to read the play and you can intercept a lot of balls. I wasn't too much of a fan of the 4-4-2, and I like the 4-3-3. So 4-3-3, 4-4-2 diamond.
Nice. And has this translated to your when you were coaching? Is that a formation that you liked, or is it when you're coaching you have to build a formation around the cards that you're dealt?
For me, the principles of player are what's important, and the principles are player habits that happen on the field that players have, and you can play in any formation when you have those habits. 4-3-3 is always a formation that I like, that I use, and recently I started using the 3-4-2 3-4-2-1. Okay, and I've seen many benefits, but again, it's about principles of play. It's about the habits that the players have on the field. Everybody thinks Guardiola, it's 4-3-3 and this, that. No, no, no. Ask him what's important. He's going to tell you it's about the principles of play, the habits that the players have on the field. When you see Klopp's teams in transition, as soon as they lose the ball, they work at 1,000 miles an hour to get the ball. That's done every day in training because their principles, their habits, it became a habit for them to do that because they do that every day in training.
Amazing. Um,
And to
you
that
ha-
point, sorry, and to that point, Ajax in the last Champions League, those boys were unbelievable. Why? Because their principles of play were spot on, and
Spot
nobody.
on and out of this world. What a machine of talent, that's for sure. That Ajax is. Um, I think that it's the machine of the either the of the century, to be very honest with you, because a lot of players come out of that. But it's even their mentality and the way they look at things. It's something that we can try to emulate here. You have a penalty shot. Where are you shooting?
Um, I don't know. I'm not sure. Finals of francophone games in Madagascar. I
Let's
shot.
put you.
I shot top left, and it went in. Luckily,
Yeah.
because usually my dad always told me, "Non devi mai tirare in alto, tiri in basso," and it went up, but it went in. Thank God.
Yeah.
That was the
you
final.
you were gonna hear that Baggio conversation, right? That he heard from 1994 all the way until
Yeah.
1998.
Uh, and he
Uh,
mentioned to me many times Platini. You remember Platini? Always top corner. Then he missed a penalty shot.
yeah.
Never top corner, bottom
There.
corner.
How's the household? How's the household in terms of Serie A? Are you all Juventine or are you all mixed?
My wife was always a Milan fan, but honestly, she hasn't watched much soccer lately.
We have infiltrated the Grande family, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, she has little Milan cups, little Milan espressos cups.
So do I.
Yeah. So she was always a Milan fan because she liked Paolo Maldini. And if you have a little bit of time, I'll tell you a little story about Paolo Maldini.
You have all the time that you want, my friend. You go.
So I need to get operated. I'm in Norway. I need to get operated on my knee, and I go to Milan because I get a contact, and I go see Doctor Martins, who was Belgium, who was the AC Milan doctor. So I'm waiting in the waiting room with my wife, and the secretary answers the phone. We were very close; you could hear everything. And she hangs up the phone and she tells her colleague, she says, "Paolo sta arrivando." My wife freaked. So 2 minutes before, Gilardino comes in and he's getting checked in, and then this call comes in, and right after this call, the doctor said, "Signor Grande, puoi venire dentro."
Oh,
My wife says, "Ciao, I'm
bye.
waiting here. I'm waiting here."
She left you.
She didn't come in the room with me. She left me for Paolo Maldini, which is unbelievable.
Uh, Unbelievable stories. Unbelievable stories. That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so that's my story.
And again, an hour and 35 minutes. That's amazing. I want people to know what's a day in the life of Sandro Grande.
Wake up in the morning. I usually don't wake up too early. I like to sleep. Wake up in the morning, have an espresso for sure. Uh, get on my computer, start doing some soccer work. If I have to do soccer work for the club, do a few hours for sure. I'm going to answer some phone calls because there's always phone calls from the soccer world, whether it's complaining or whether it's getting things organized or whatever. And then at night, usually 6 o'clock, off to the field, and I'm usually on the field from 6:30 to 11, and then I'll go home and sit on the couch, watch some soccer on television, and then I'll go to bed.
Amazing. Sandro, I want to thank you, my friend. I want to thank you for giving us this time and sharing your story and talking about what you went through, the highs and the lows of your career. And I want you just to leave everybody off with some information on Etoile de l'Est and anybody who's in Laval or Laval or the city, right? And wants to get involved in soccer and is looking for a club.
Whoever wants to email me, I mean, my contact is on the etoiledelest.com, étoile avec an S, delest.com. And I mean, if your kids are in the area and you're looking for a place to play, who has a very player-centered mentality, whose every decision is based upon the kids, we are here. And if you want to contact me, you can find me on social media. You can find my email address on the Etoile de l'Est website. Inscriptions have begun, so get your inscriptions going. There's going to be a Sandro Grande program, summer program, morning summer program coming up very, very soon. It's going to start in a couple of weeks. So if whoever wants to sign up their kids into that, just look out for the information on my Facebook pages and on the etoiledelest.com website. And enjoy your kids' soccer. Do not stress them out. Let them enjoy themselves because they truly love the game and they don't understand all these stresses about winning and all that stuff. Let them have fun. Let them smile because we need more Ronaldinhos in this world that just smile when they play.
Canadinos, Canadianos. We'll make up a word for them when they go. Guys, thank you very much. 9:40 Eastern Standard Time. My stretching is done. I'm gonna go do a cool down now. Sandro, thank you very much. Thank you again, and I hope you would accept an invitation maybe in the future.
Anytime, anytime I'm available. Soccer talk for me is we'll do it. We'll do it in a remote location where we can watch a game at the same time.
That would be something very special. Thank you, Sandro. Have a
Thank you very much.
fantastic evening. Keep in touch, my friend. And everybody who chimed in and is going to be listening to this, guys, Milan Weekly Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Guys, the podcast is live on YouTube if you want to see my fantastic body and face. And if you don't, guys, no problem. We'll put it in podcast version and you can listen to it through your car. Thank you guys. Thank you, Sandro. Have a
Thank you very much.
fantastic night. I'm
You
gonna
too.
end the broadcast now with a Forza Milan.
That's it. Forza Milan, Forza Juve. Dai.
It's gonna end. It. Oh,